It's official. He's back, and we're here to talk about it today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
And welcome back to the Locked On Chiefs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And we are part of the #1 sports podcast network in the United States. Thank you all so much for that. We really do truly appreciate it. If you haven't already, go check out our Everydayer Club. You can check it out at lockedonchiefs.supercast.com. There's a link in the show notes. Be sure to check that out. I am Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. Going to have a lot to talk about this offseason when we start talking about salary cap, what the moves that the Chiefs could be making, and there will be several mock drafts because I know a lot of people like those as well. That we're going to be discussing over there. He is Ryan Tracy from RGR Football, Rogue Analytics, NFL 33, and so many more places. We've been doing this, 9 years on this specific show. We've actually been podcasting for 10 because we had our own show before that, which that was an interesting scenario, but long time ago. This is really interesting, and I cannot wait. We're going to get into the Eric Bieniemy news in a moment. Much later, we're going to talk about the offensive news around the NFL, and there's a story I really want to talk about and how it kind of applies to this Chiefs team and how it applies to the future of the NFL and the AFC really in general, in my opinion. But we're going to talk about the stars seem to be all in on Eric Bieniemy return, but it does seem to be official right now as we sit. Eric Bieniemy is back. It's being announced on X by multiple different sources and being confirmed by multiple different sources. The Chiefs haven't said it yet, but I would say that this is a done deal, and he is now the offensive coordinator. They're now looking to fill some of the other roles that they have rolled back over the past couple of days that we've also just now found out about.
Yeah, it's been 5 years since Eric Bieniemy was here. I was here till 22, so you guys do the math. I always forget that carryover year. It's quite a different thing. And so coming back, this is maybe the most interesting return. I mean, we saw Doug Peterson do a loop, right? We've seen other guys come back into the. No one as influential in the building as Eric Bieniemy, I don't think has returned again for a second stint. I'm interested in this. I think, and we're going to talk about what the players seem to be putting out there here coming up in a little bit. But I think the really interesting thing is I feel like Andy Reid recognized that something went out the door with EB that they weren't able to replace. Something that gave them an edge, something that gave them, I know everybody wants to say accountability, and that is what it is, but there's more to it than that. It's about confronting young men. Let's be real. Unless you're a quarterback in this league, you're not a 35-year-old dude, most likely, right? Travis would be the exception. These are generally guys in their 20s, maybe early 30s. And there is something to that effect of, I need to push this guy. I need to challenge him. And that is something that I think outside of the whole schematic idea portion that Patrick Mahomes has talked about, I think that's the biggest thing about challenging people to be better than they are currently. It doesn't mean you have to get them to be all pros. Not everybody's an all pro, right? But I do think there is more to pushing players towards their upside than what we've seen on the staff in the last few years, whether it's age related or personality related or whatever. I think Eric Bieniemy has all those things answered in experience, in his personality, his edge, the respect that he demands and the respect that he gives. I think those are all key components to his return.
I think it's interesting because I know we're talking about Eric Bieniemy, but he's going to have a say in some of these other positions that are now opening up that we're now just finding out about. Kevin Saxton is no longer on the coaching staff. Mark D. Leone, who is also an assistant running backs coach, is no longer on the coaching staff. Chad O'Shea is somebody that they've already brought in. He's now on the coaching staff. An interesting quote from Rob Gronkowski, who calls him a top 3 wide receiver coach in the NFL. Would love if that's going to be the case.
It's funny that it comes from a tight end. We'll talk about that in another day.
Right. No, for sure. But I say all that, and I know we're talking about Eric Bieniemy, but the whole point is Andy Reid, and this is what brought me to this point. You said something earlier about Andy Reid saw something was missing. Andy Reid is changing the sphere of influence that he has around him on that offense right now. I'm not sure that they're done. We will find out whether or not there's going to be more moves on the offensive staff done or that are going to be changing. But some of these people were guys that have been with Andy for a long time, and they're being relieved of duties. It's not just that they're, interviewing other places and taking other jobs. They're being relieved of duties. So there's real scenario where there could be some real big changes. There's people out there that will argue that this is more of a lot of the same of what Andy's done in his career, going back to guys that he knows, and I can understand that thought process. But when you start looking at the fact that they've let go, 3 or 4 coaches now? DeLeon, Saxton, Pinkston, Embry. You're talking about a lot of your offensive staff that is in that scenario. I think this is going to be interesting, and I'm curious as to what it turns out to be for the offense in 2026.
I will also tell you that the common denominator there is youth. There is a swing of a pendulum in this league right now going towards young, offensive-minded coaches. Chiefs tried that. They tried to bring in some fresh blood, some young guys that didn't have a whole lot of experience, and the result of 6-11 is what you got. I know there's other complicated pieces to that puzzle, but it is part of it. It is a large part of it, in my opinion. And so now you're swinging back the other way. There are both the primary running back coach and the assistant running back coach, which doesn't necessarily have to be refilled. I'm just going to put it that way. Just because there were 2, I do think an assistant running back coach is sometimes a stretch. It depends on who that primary is. If you have a guy that commands the room, I don't know that you need an assistant running backs coach. But I think that pendulum is swinging back. I expect when we see this happen, it's either possibly a younger coach that we've seen on this roster before, or I think it's, again, much like the Chad O'Shea hire, somebody that has some experience and probably has a personal connection to someone that is still here on this tree.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because that's a great point. You go from Embry, who was their coach, their wide receiver coach, youth, didn't ever play the position, didn't have the experience, and Pinkston was your running back coach, and now Chad O'Shea is your wide receiver coach. Who are they going to get for their running back coach? I would imagine it's going to be somebody that has a lot of experience and is going to be able to take them to another step. But you also talk about not having an assistant, because if you get a guy that has experience and is taught the position before, maybe you don't feel like you need the assistant. So do you end up paying go pay a guy a little bit more money and get rid of the assistant because you don't need it? That could make a lot of sense there too.
It could. Now, there's also going to be an offensive quality control coach out there. There could be, another way to keep a full-time coach, but maybe make another assignment on the staff.
Yeah, and Andy is always about giving people opportunities and trying to get them, a wide breadth of knowledge. So it wouldn't shock me if you bring in a running back coach and you talk about an offensive quality assistant, maybe helping out with the running backs or stepping in and helping out even with the wide receivers just to learn, not necessarily having to do anything specific, but learning from O'Shea, because you're going to need as many people as you can to bring this club where they want to go, especially with the talent that we think that they have at wide receiver. When we get back, we're going to talk about all the stars seem to be in on this EB return. That's coming up next.
Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in every opening, beating your PR, and beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and EFTs, options, futures, and crypto all in one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. NFL season is in full swing, and there's nothing like being at the game. The crowd noise, the energy, and the cheering alongside the other fans. Watching at home is great, but being in the stadium hits different. It's frustrating sometimes. with all the waiting in lines, the dealing with logins, and watching prices change right at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives you the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I use it all the time, and my favorite aspect of it is when you go in, you're able to see the view from the seat. It makes a world of difference to know what you're going to be looking at before you do. That way, there are no surprises. There's a ton of deals out there, and you can even get them in the zones that you are looking for most of all. So take the guesswork out of buying your NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just create the account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today and get back to being there live.
Thank you for making Locked On Chiefs your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Chiefs, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show, and Ryan and I are both there having conversations with you. So please go check this out. Go to lockedonchiefs.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. There is a ton to talk about when we start getting into all the news that is going to be going around in the NFL, and we're going to talk about in the next segment. But when we get into this one, the stars seem to be all in on Eric Bieniemy returning. I will say the one that surprised me the most was Travis Kelce coming out and supporting this, not because he supported it, but because he went on his New Heights show podcast and said, I can't wait to see him back in the building.
He was not subtle, and it's the biggest podcast in the world. So like there's plenty of ears listening.
That's not my issue with that comment.
What's your issue then?
He's excited to see him back in the building. That sure seems like a hint going one direction.
I'm not following you.
Kelce could be coming back in 2026.
Oh, I had already made that connection when he was commenting at all, to tell you the truth.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I'm just laying it out there. Like, you want to talk about how this goes? Like, him supporting this, to me, says if he's talking about the fact, he's wanting to talk about the fact that he's excited to see Bieniemy back in the building. If he's excited to see him back in the building, he's likely coming back in 2026. He likes this move, and he's excited to work with him again.
I'm going to go one step farther. That was part of the math in making this hire.
Could be.
I sincerely believe that what these stars feel, and obviously Patrick Mahomes is all in as well, making a lot of comments, and a lot of folks understand that. I think this was part of that decision. The math that went into this decision was to try to get the stars back connected and back online and what they want in the room. A lot of people around the team will tell you that the players appreciate EB in a way that they wanted him back. I know not everyone does, maybe not the staff. I know there's a lot of conjecture about that. But the bottom line is the players want to play for this guy, even if he calls you out. And I think that's a sign of respect. And for Travis to come out and say those things, I took that as encouragement as well. The fact that he commented at all is what gave me the idea that, okay, he's planning on at least giving it some consideration. What caught me by surprise is I don't think he was the most excited Kelce about this. Jason wants to see EB without a shirt, and I don't know exactly why I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go there, but I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, well, I saw that segment too, and yeah, Jason's all about it. Of course, you have to remember, what did Jason go do on national TV when the Chiefs were playing the Bills?
The guy has a tendency to get out of control. It's good.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. And, Patrick Mahomes posting a picture on Instagram of him and Eric Bieniemy. I mean, that says something to me too. I mean, you start looking at how this is going to play out. The team seems to be, at least the stars on the team, the offensive stars on the team, seem to be buying into this. And the reality is this is exactly what you need. You need accountability. And if Kelce and Mahomes are willing to buy into this, who are the two unquestioned leaders on that offense, and obviously Patrick's, the unquestioned field general. We get that, but Kelce's a huge leader on this offense as well. Both of their opinions matter, and if they're going to buy into it, you have to feel like the rest of the offensive players are going to be buying into it as well. And this is something that you're absolutely correct. One of the things, and this is actually the title of our show yesterday, was all about accountability. If Eric Bieniemy can bring that to the offense, it changes everything that they can do, because if they start getting to a point where they can be more accountable and they start getting pushed a little bit harder than maybe they have been pushed the past couple of seasons, they have the talent here. This team underperformed where they should have been.
Yeah. And I will tell you, for Patrick Mahomes, for Travis Kelce, I do think they certainly are guys that will embrace and probably thrive. I think this gives Travis the energy to push through another season. But I'll tell you, the guy that needs to get on board with this as much as Patrick and Travis Kelce, and is also the guy that I think probably needs an EB type coach in his life, is Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice has to get serious. He is going to be pushed. He's going to be challenged. He's going to be made to be a better person and better man and better player by Eric Bieniemy. He's got to be ready for that. I'm sure that went into the math of this hire as well. And I do think in the end it will come out on the positive side, but that is something to keep an eye on, because I don't know that Rashee Rice has been challenged by anyone as much as he's about to be challenged by Eric Bieniemy.
Well, it's not going to be just Rice. Xavier Worthy too. And I do want to give credit where credit is due. Xavier Worthy had emergency surgery, or not emergency, but surgery right after the season basically ended. I think they should have ended it basically when Mahomes went down and let him have his surgery, but it is what it is. To play through a torn labrum the entire season shows the toughness that kid has. And he is going to be pushed. But the bigger thing for him is he needs to be pushed on his route running downfield, his ability to track, which seemed to be really good coming out of college. But him and Mahomes need to get on the same page. This is something that they got to get figured out. And I do think that it's going to be something that they're going to be focused on, because they have to be able to hit that deep ball in 2026.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you right now, there's zero wrong with Xavier Worthy's ability to track over his head.
Yeah.
That is about the physical, the shoulder injury, and where those balls were thrown.
Yeah, I understand. And they still have to get it figured out. Those two have to get on the same page. You have to be able to hit, or that draft pick isn't going to be what it should be.
Could very well be. But, hey, everybody's got to make draft choices. Sometimes they come back to bite you.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about one that seems to be coming back to bite people in the next segment, because there is a lot going on in the NFL, and we're going to talk about some offensive news that's coming up next. If you've ever hired somebody who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I need to hire someone for this show, I go straight to Indeed to be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a higher than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners to the show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out your forms, find all of my expenses on the pod and everything that goes into producing all of these shows, you can meet with a local tax expert and a person, connect online, and you're in business. For a limited time, all you have to do is to get connected and have your taxes done by a local pro expert for just $150. All in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take your taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today.
This is going to be an interesting segment. I kind of laughed when I saw the thumbnail or the background when you said offensive news, because that can go so many different directions. But what we're actually going to be talking about here is some of the offensive players that there's news about. And one of the bigger stories that just came out this morning is talking about another wide receiver that was drafted in the same class as Xavier and doesn't seem to be fulfilling expectations of his GM and his owner in Buffalo. And I have to say, I really don't know how you salvage that situation with the player at this point.
Let's be honest. 5 picks after Xavier Worthy was drafted, so was Keon Coleman. Brandon Beane is the gift that keeps on giving to the Kansas City Chiefs. And this debacle is only one more thing. I feel bad for Joe Marino. You guys go listen to Joe's show and see what he has to say about this, because I think the discussion, the flare-up that we saw today, despite all the dysfunction the Chiefs have seen in the last year, was absolutely topped by what the Buffalo Bills just went through today, in the way no one wants to take responsibility or claim or even care that the fact that the player that they're arguing about whose fault it is still on your roster.
Yeah.
It's incredible what's going on around this league. And I know a lot of Chiefs fans are down. Don't be that down. There's stuff broken everywhere, and it's a whole lot worse most other places.
And I will say this, like I saw what they said. I watched the little clip of what they said, and I don't know how you salvage that situation with the player. Like they walked it back a little bit later and said it's their job to develop him, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But the reality is like you can't sit there and throw a player under the bus like that and think that it's going to work out for you in the future. And granted, that was a second-round pick for him. It's not the same as a first-round pick, I guess, but you're still talking about probably one of the better wide receivers that they have on that team, which is an indication of how bad their wide receivers are in general. And I'm not talking about Shakir. Shakir's a great receiver. That's not pointed at him. But they haven't done well at that position for Josh Allen anyway. And the bigger issue that I have with this is it's an unforced error on their part. Like, if you come out and say something like that after the game, even within hours of the game, you're going to be talking about, okay, well, it was an emotional decision to say something like that. You're saying this days after. And the reason you're saying it is because you're trying to justify firing McDermott. Like, the insanity
by throwing this kid under the bus.
Well, throwing this kid under the bus, to me, it's even worse, though. Like, how do you justify firing McDermott and promoting Beane? They gave him a promotion.
That's the hard
quite
part.
Frankly, if you look at if you look at Buffalo's roster, that roster isn't good. They've put it a lot on Josh Allen. And don't get me wrong, I think Josh Allen is easily a top 3 quarterback at the NFL. Not going to get an argument about where he is in that top 3, but he is easily a top 3 quarterback. But I kind of said this yesterday. He needs to learn how to tone it down at times and not try to take things over and do everything himself. But with the roster he has, I don't know that he really had a choice. So you're going to throw the coach under the bus, which I think McDermott should have been fired. I'm not saying that. But I can't understand how you think that roster is good enough to win a Super Bowl and you promote the guy that got them their roster the most in Beane, and you say that it was the coach's decision to draft him. There's video out there of Beane talking about wanting him
at the combine.
Yeah.
Months before the selection was made. And let's be real, he wasn't a first rounder. You're correct. He was number 33 overall, the first pick of the second round. That is significant investment.
Yeah. No, and I I understand he wasn't like, I get that. But it's you look at this and it's like, how are you making so many forced errors? And then that becomes the question of, did they just kind of screw themselves with getting the coach that they're going to want too? It goes further than that to me, because quite frankly, you literally just threw somebody that seems to be absolutely beloved by the fans to an extent and by most of the players under the bus in McDermott, and you're now throwing a player under the bus. Is that really going to be a scenario where a lot of good coaches are going to want to go?
When you torch the guy that was in your chair before you, what do you expect, right?
Yeah. I mean, but the owner's sitting there talking. It's not just the GM. The owner's sitting there and throwing stuff under the bus. Like, even if you get rid of the GM in the future, you're still dealing with that guy as your owner.
That guy. Yeah, absolutely. It makes it very difficult, because when something, if it doesn't work out, and we all know that the fuses are shorter and shorter these days. I do think this decision to let McDermott go was fueled by the career mortality that Josh can see from here. As you hit that 30 mark, it does speed things along. If they pull the trigger early on another coach hire and letting the next one go, if it comes down to rocky roads, it's not the GM or the owner that's going anywhere. That's clearly been shown right now. It's whoever takes this job. And that is difficult to get that one filled.
Well, and what should be, quite frankly, the most attractive job in the NFL for anybody that wants to be a head coach, because you are going to a place where you already have the superstar quarterback in place. And I still think that it's possible that Brian Daboll ends up being the head coach of the Bills. I mean, I still think that makes a ton of sense. It sounds like he's interviewing for that job, so would not shock me. But so many unforced errors in that regard. And then, the other news that just came out right before we started recording this, Brandon Aiyuk is out in San Francisco. He will not be back. He's not going to be playing for the San Francisco 49ers again.
Yeah, John Lynch comes out and says, basically, I'm just going to tell you now, he's played his last snap for us. End of story. That is pretty remarkable. Have you looked into the cap ramifications?
I was just doing that right now.
Okay, because that's really interesting to me. By broadcasting this, I think you actually hurt yourself as an organization today, John Lynch. I think you limited what this scenario can be in terms of you getting anything back for Brandon Aiyuk, who I believe, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong here in a second, I believe he's still under contract. So you would think compensation of some type, right?
Yeah, there's going to have to be some kind of conversation. So what I was trying to find, he signed a 4-year, $120 million contract extension in August of 2024. He played 2 seasons under that deal, and actually really only 1 season under that deal, because he was under contract before he signed it, I believe. So he is now he's still under contract with the 49ers. I think that there's probably an argument that they're going to try to make, and I don't know how successful it will be, but I'm guessing that they're going to come back and try to go after his signing bonus and void his guarantees. But it doesn't. Now that I'm looking at this, it doesn't look like he has guarantees. So
at all?
Not.
He has no guaranteed money remaining. Is that what you're saying?
That's what it's looking like right now. I'm trying to verify that.
Things.
No, it does.
But right now he's $41 million against the cap. No, I'm sorry. He's
$14 million against the cap.
14 against in 26. Then next year it goes up to 41. So you would actually be in the hole for that 14.9. You'd have 30 in dead money if you cut him pre-June 1. Cut him after that, and you're still out some dead money, but you're recouping at least some value. But I don't know, by saying this out loud, if you've got any option now other than to part ways with a cut. I don't know that you can trade Brandon Aiyuk after making this statement.
Well, the crazy thing is I don't know that this really precludes him from being traded. Based on the contract I'm looking at right now, the only thing he has left on his deal that's guaranteed, well, nothing's really guaranteed. Like, if the 49ers I'm reading this right, if the 49ers release him, or if the 49ers trade him, he's got a $1.215 million salary in 2026, but his bonuses have already been paid out. So, well, if he's on the roster, he gets a $23 million bonus and a $25 million bonus in 26. But I don't see when those vest.
And this is where the contract details make all the difference in the world. So long story short, coming off of an injury, a guy that had been thought to be one of the emerging top 5 talents in this league might be on the market very quickly. Could be.
And if I'm Kansas City, am I making a trade for Brandon Aiyuk? I mean, if you can get him for a 5th or 6th round pick, because you have to take on the contract, and 2,
right,
they already said he's not gonna be back and playing in San Francisco. Why wouldn't you consider making a move? I think the big thing on this one is you have to know. The Chiefs will know exactly, and I'll have to look in the contract details a little bit more. This happened right before the show, so I didn't get a chance to look at it as much as I would have wanted to. But the Chiefs will know specifically what it would cost them in the future to do this deal. And if there's not a ton of guaranteed money, I would not care if they throw a 5th or 6th round pick to go get Brandon Aiyuk, because the reality is it's maybe it's a medium risk move, but the reward could be very high. Like,
it could.
You're potentially out a draft pick if he comes in and he continues to do the crap he's done in San Francisco. But to me, when I look at Aiyuk, I'm not worried about his personality in Kansas City, because 1, he doesn't have a ton of guaranteed money on his contract, so the Chiefs could technically cut him, and a 5th or 6th round pick on this roster isn't guaranteed to make it anyway. Is the way I look at this roster.
Well,
I mean, yeah, they have a ton of holes. You would like for them to hit on every single one and feel like they're going to draft somebody at every single position that's going to benefit them. But to me, I would consider a 5th or 6th round pick for a guy like Aiyuk if you could get him for what his contract is right now, knowing that if he comes in and you can't get anything to work out with him, okay, maybe you're out $2 million and you're out a draft pick. If it does work out, what do you get? You get a legit number 1 to pair with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. Like, how is that a deal that you wouldn't want to do?
He's coming off an injury, so you can't necessarily think that that's the truth. There is a bit of a question mark.
No, that's true. There is going to be a question mark with the injury, but there's also a situation where you're also not sure what you're going to get from Patrick Mahomes in 2026. So, I mean, you're in a scenario where there's a bunch of what ifs. To me, I look at this and I say it could be worth it. And as far as Keon Coleman is concerned, I would consider doing a late round pick for a Keon Coleman too. There's talent there. I'm not saying that it's going to be something that would be great, but there's talent there. There's a reason he was drafted where he was drafted. I think that especially if you're working with a wide receiver coach that actually has experience like they're going to have going forward, for the right draft pick, I would consider making that trade. I'm not talking about an early round pick. I'm talking 6th, 7th, conditional 6th or 7th. I mean, why? Why not?
Yeah, he doesn't really fit their pattern. But
what was that?
It all depends whether you're willing to change the offense, because he doesn't really fit their pattern.
No, he doesn't. But there's also a question as to whether or not they're going to continue with the same type of offense going forward with the new offensive coordinator and with how the offense has looked the past couple of years. I'm just saying, when you look at how this roster is built and you look at all the different news that's going around, there are going to be moves that can be made to improve this roster that don't just have to come through the draft or through free agency.
Very true.
So we will see what happens. That's going to be it for us today. Thank you all for listening. Please let us know in the comments what you think, and tell us what you think about this whole deal in Buffalo, because I think it's fascinating, and I just couldn't help myself but laugh a little bit. Thank you all for listening today, and we will catch you tomorrow.